This video is sponsored by Everwinter, a holistic gaming convention that features a full-size Warhammer 40k major held December 8th through 10th. More about them later on in the video. What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and welcome to another episode of Best Armies in Warhammer 40k. This is the video series where we go through undefeated lists from the past weekend's major and GT level competitive events, and we break down which factions are doing well and examples of the armies those factions are taking. And we have an insane week of results this week. In the past, we've seen incredible results from Chaos Space Marines and Aeldari, but it looks like that might be going the way of the dodo. We did have a little bit of a different composition of events this week. Not too many large major level events. In fact, all of the events this week were only 5 rounds. That's usually between 20 and 40 players. The top results for this week are fairly surprising. Adepta Sororitas and Adeptus Astartes are our two frontrunners this week. They've kind of come from behind, where usually they'll put up 1 or 2 undefeated results over the course of a week. Today, they are putting up a ton. Adepta Sororitas with 3 undefeated lists at East Anglian GT, Crossswords War at the Westford, and the Hammer Time at Kelowna Comic Con. Adeptus Astartes had a couple different subfactions do well. 3 undefeated results from a standard vanilla Astartes build at Majestic Beasties, the Multiverso War, and Absolute Supremacy Underworld. A pure Salamanders list also went 5-0 at Partisan Games, and Black Templars took down the Bembo Clash number 9. Moving on from that, we saw a smattering of old staples of the competitive scene. Both Aeldari and Leagues of Votann both put up 2 results apiece. Aeldari at the Hertfordshire Winter GT, as well as the Steel City November GT, and Leagues of Votann at the ITA 40k Singles and FA Cup 2023. And with that, nipping at those heels, we also saw a couple of results from a couple more surprising factions. Genestealer Cults at the Mad Warhammer 40k GT, Grey Knights at the 2d6 Grand Tournament, and World Eaters also at Majestic Beasties. Overall, an incredibly surprising selection of undefeated lists. We see no Chaos Space Marines whatsoever, a relatively limiting but still strong showing from Aeldari, a lot of the other top factions not really showing up. It seems like Space Marines are finally being cemented as a top faction. They saw a good result with John Lennon taking them to 2nd place at the World Championships last weekend, and a lot of people are following both his example and other top players who took Ironstorm Spearheads to that event. It looks like as the multitude of competitive builds for the faction cements themselves, Space Marines are just going to be going from strength to strength. And moving on later in the winter season, it will be interesting once more larger events start to pop up once again, whether or not they can compete with the top level of Chaos Space Marine and other super powerful builds. Now moving on to the lists, we'll start with Adepta Sororitas, and moving into the Crossswords War at the Westward 3 GT, which was won by Aidan Brocklehurst, rocking a 5-0 record with the Sororitas. This list was running a Dialogus, Imagifier, Palatine with the Blade of St. Eleanor, St. Celestine, and the Triumph of St. Catherine. So we have the full combo assembled of the Palatine and Dialogus. The Dialogus allows you to change your miracle dice to 6s. The Palatine allows those 6s to be converted into lethal hits if you use them on the hit roll. And the Triumph of St. Catherine allows you to use multiple miracle dice with a unit in a single turn. The list is using this combo on Battle Sister squads, which are rocking a Melta-Gun as well as a Multi-Melta. These can embark into an Immolator to split the unit in half, giving you 3 Melta shots that you're able to pump full of 6s, giving them 6s to hit for an automatic hit, an automatic wound thanks to lethal hits, and then if you use additional 6s, you can do automatic 6 damage with each successfully converted wound. We then run 3 Sororitas Rhinos. These are carrying 3 units of Arcoflagellants, 2 units of 2 Crusaders for support, as well as a Seraphim squad, and a bevy of armored vehicles, including a Castigator with a battle cannon and 2 Exorcists, bringing up the rear and supplying additional anti-tank. These styles of Adepta Sororitas lists do their best to overcome Sororitas' traditional weakness against heavy armor, using these combos to punch through heavily armored vehicles, while the Exorcists and Castigators can act as support. All the while, they're using their high volume of OC2 Battle Sisters to dominate primary objectives and their mass access to light, cheap utility units like Crusaders and those Seraphim squads to score secondaries as well. These lists are incredibly good at scoring, they can do pretty decent mid-range damage, and they're very difficult to stop if you don't have good ways to prevent transports from doing well. As the year grows colder and there's not but the icy nip of Jack Frost outdoors, what's better than to curl up with a hot mug of cocoa next to the roar of indoor central heating and one of the largest miniature gaming events of the year? Everwinter is one of the many amazing events presented by Wicked Dicey. Veterans of this channel might recognize some of Wicked Dicey's past events like Everwinter 2022 and Ironweld, which both supported the channel and I covered on stream. They were amazing events, and Wicked Dicey always puts on an amazing show, but this year they are coming back bigger and better than ever. Everwinter is a cross-denominational miniature gaming extravaganza now at a new location in Waltham, Massachusetts. This gaming convention features competitive play for a frankly dizzying number of miniature games, including a full-size Age of Sigmar GT, a Star Wars Legion Championship, and events for other games such as Malifaux, Infinity, X-Wing, Armada, Conquest, Song of Ice and Fire, Middle-earth strategy battle game, and many more, including, let's be honest, the one that you're probably the most interested in, a full-scale Warhammer 40k major. Last year, Everwinter brought together close to 140k players for their major, and this year promises to be even bigger. If competition isn't quite your style, there is also a variety of casual and narrative events to choose from, as well as a variety of board games and hobby workshops so you can hone those paintbrush skills. I couldn't be more excited for Everwinter 2023, and I will be there all weekend. So please come and join me December 8th through 10th at the Westham Waltham, Boston, and head on over to wickeddicey.com/Everwinter for more information and to get your tickets today. I'll see you on the battlefield, gamers. That moves us on to our next faction, Space Marines. The real headliner of the faction this weekend was the Ironstorm Spearhead, the vehicle-focused, incredibly mathematically powerful Adeptus Astartes build. It does have a little bit of maneuverability thanks to Master of Machine War, and also supercharges the damage output of Astartes combat vehicles. Garrett Olsen was able to take the detachment to a 5-0 record at the Majestic Beasties GT in Winnipeg, Manitoba. In this list, Garrett was taking the triumvirate of Tech Marines, each equipped with one of the 3 enhancements that are so important to the list. These include Adept of the Omnissiah to increase the survivability of vehicles by allowing you to 0 damage enemy attacks targeting them, the Target Augury Web increasing their output by giving lethal hits, and the Master of Machine War increasing their maneuverability, giving you advance and shoot or fall back and shoot. Those were buffing a phalanx of dreadnoughts, including 2 Ballistas dreadnoughts, as well as 3 Redemptor dreadnoughts. The list also had 2 Inceptor squads, 5-man squads equipped with Plasma Exterminators for support and utility, alongside 2 Incursor squads to grant +1 to hit with their ability, 1 Infiltrator squad to protect against enemy Deep Strikers, and 1 Calidus Assassin to add maneuverability and deep striking to the list itself. Last but certainly not least, we also had a Lieutenant with Combi Weapon. Interestingly, we oftentimes see that guy equipped with Master of Machine War, thanks to his baked-in lone operative, but today he's just running without any enhancements. Moving on to some of the more specialized varieties of Space Marines, we saw Salamanders go to a 5-0 record at the Partisan Games GT. Michael Costello was able to take this faction to a 5-0 result, running a Firestorm Assault Force featuring both Vulcan Heston and Adrax Agatoni. Vulcan Heston is a core part of most Firestorm Assault Force builds. He earns full rerolls on Flamer and Melta weapons, able to buff units like Infernus squads, and combo with the stratagem to gain devastating wounds on those torrent weapons that the detachment has access to. If you're taking Vulcan Heston, you might as well be taking Adrax Agatone as well. He's a huge bonus for playing in a Salamander's detachment. He is an incredibly powerful melee combatant. Probably one of, if not the most efficient melee character that Space Marines have access to. For only 85 points, you get a 3 damage Thunderhammer profile with full wound rerolls. You can combo that together with Oaths of Moment or a Blade Guard veteran squad for almost full hit and wound rerolls on Adrax and his unit. Those also can be buffed by some of the stratagems like Crucible of Battle in the Firestorm Assault Force to allow this little unit to kill most targets in the game. We're also running a normal captain, as well as a Phobos Librarian and Terminator Librarian with Forged in Battle. In the battle line, we have a single Intercessor squad and a Blade Guard veteran squad for Adrax to join into. A unit of Company Heroes, which is usually where Vulcan Heston is going to live. They have a ton of wounds to protect him, and while they're accompanied by a captain or chapter master, they get -1 to be wounded themselves, which makes the unit pretty tanky, allowing Vulcan Heston to move up the table aggressively, apply his buff to enemy units within 24 inches, and take some return fire before going down. We also have a Devastator squad with multi-meltas to benefit from those full rerolls, alongside an Infernus squad for the same reason. The multi-meltas are good with full rerolls against tanks, the Infernus squad against infantry, or you can use the Devastating Wounds ability on the Infernus squad as well, using it for free with the Space Marine Captain. To then deal a bunch of mortal wounds to any target, alongside an Infiltrator squad, 1 Land Raider Redeemer, 2 Repulsors, and a Terminator squad for the Librarian to join. This detachment is fairly flexible with its synergies with transport units and can do incredible damage at short range. It can be relatively inflexible and does require you to get into that short range. However, if you're able to do so, has some of the greatest damage output available to the Space Marine faction. And that moves us on to the last of the Space Marine sub-factions that we're going to talk about today, Black Templars, which took down the Bembel Clash number 9, with Kevin Zollinger knocking out that event with another Ironstorm Spearhead. This one was using the Black Templars' ability to attach multi-meltas to their vehicles for a couple extra points. It was only running a Master of Machine War. We didn't see any of the other upgrades on its Tech Marines, but it was taking 2 Tech Marines in that detachment, alongside 3 Black Templars Impulsors, running Bellicatus missile arrays and those top-mounted multi-meltas. We then also saw 3 Black Templar Reapers. These are going to be able to combo with Mercy as weakness from the detachment to grant critical 5s against a wounded infantry squad, which can then potentially turn into Sustain 2 on its Gonthal Gatling Cannon, giving it an immense amount of firepower against heavy or medium infantry. We then had 2 Hellblaster squads to jump into those Impulsors, alongside 2 Predator Annihilators, 3 Predator Destructors, and 3 Scout squads for utility. This army is incredibly straightforward. We're just going to be overwhelming our opponent with mass numbers of devastating re-rolling wounds thanks to the Onslaught Gatling Cannons, efficient firepower from the Predators and the Impulsors, alongside some infantry support on those embarked units. Interestingly, there aren't enough units to embark into the Impulsors without starting the Tech Marines inside them. We're obviously going to be able to put the Hellblaster squads into 2 of them, but the other 2 will have to start the Tech Marines, which means that the Tech Marines won't get their buff on the first turn. However, once they are disembarked on the turn 2 onwards, they are going to be able to apply their +1 to wound. Pretty interesting that we're basically just taking them as tax for the Impulsors, but that does mean that those Black Templars Impulsors are good enough to warrant inclusion by themselves without necessarily needing to combo any infantry with them. For only 85 points, you get a tough profile that rocks a bunch of anti-infantry shooting, plus the Bellicatus missile array, plus 2 multi-melta shots, and that is all a pretty good deal. Now moving on from Space Marines, we will go to Aeldari, who were able to take down the Hertfordshire GT with Clement Tornad, winning that one 5-0. To be honest, if you've seen most of the Eldar lists that we've talked about in the past, this is kind of the same deal. This one is running a Wraithguard brick in place of the normal Avatar of Cain that we've started to see more often in Aeldari lists. It's also running 2 Star Weavers with Harlequin troops and Troop Masters inside, rather than the one that we often see. Other than that, it's mostly just Eldar stuff. So I don't know. We've talked about them for like literally 5 months now, and you know what's up. The Eldar doing Eldar things. Keeping with factions with 2 undefeated results, let's talk about Leagues of Votann, with Terrence Toy taking down the event with a 5-0 record. Terrence was rocking an End Here champion with a Praising Glare, as well as a Call with Grim Demeanor. These guys were backed up by 2 units of Hearthkin Warriors, who were set to split into 2 units of 5 to embark into 2 Sagitaurs. Likely, we were going to have, likely the heavy weapons and special weapons would embark into the Sagitaurs with units of 5 backline infantry to act as objective holders, and 2 units of Chthonian Berserks jumping into the other 2 Sagitaurs. We were then running a single land fortress, that one embarking 3 Brokir Thunderkin, alongside 2 huge bricks of End Here Hearthguard, 10 apiece, 1 with plasma guns and 1 with Vulcanite Disintegrators, and 1 unit of Herdenkin Pioneers for support. A little bit of a transition from the normal lists that are built around vehicles. This one is only running 5 vehicles, but the rest of the list focused on those big, heavy infantry bricks. Now, keeping the pseudo-Xenos theme, we can move on to the Mad Warhammer 40k GT, where Colton Cox took Genestealer Cults to a 5-0 record. Colton's list was rocking a lot of anti-Space Marine technology, running multiple Clamavises. These guys have a 12-inch no deep strike aura, which will prevent Inceptors from dropping into annoying places in the Genestealer Cult backline and completing secondaries. It also helps a little bit to protect any Cult ambush tokens from enemy units that are going to deep strike and move to destroy them. One of the Clamavai was running Meticulous Planner, while the other one was running Inscrutable Cunning. We also then had 3 Primuses, a Reductus Saboteur, a Sanctus, 1 Kellermorph, and 1 Nexos to round out the character selection. They were leading 2 units of 10 Acolyte Hybrids with Demolition Charges, and 5 units of Neophyte Hybrids running a mix of Seismic Cannons, Mining Lasers, and Grenade Launchers. We had 3 units with Seismic Cannons, one of those running Webbers, and 2 units with Mining Lasers, those all running Grenade Launchers. Pretty interesting selection of weaponry on those Neophyte Hybrids. This list was very much focused on getting value out of those longer ranged guns, more so than using the Acolyte Hybrids, who are a lot less reliable now that they have restrictions on their Cult Ambush respawn and their ability to come back on the table once destroyed. In order to support that heavy firepower, we also had 1 Achilles Ridge Runner with a Spotter. Genestealers, known for jumping up and down and all around in order to score points. Next faction that we're going to talk about is doing the exact same thing. This is Grey Knights, who Victor Bergenholtz used to take down the 2d6 Grand Tournament with an undefeated record. He was running 2 Brotherhood Librarians to add mortal wound support from their Vortex of Dooms, 1 Grand Master with the Sigil of Exigence, Kaldor Drago, the Great Man himself, to confirm charges out of Deep Strike, alongside 3 Brotherhood Terminator squads, 2 of 5 and 1 of 10. Many times we'll have Kaldor Drago join the big Terminator squad. Following that up is a 5-man strike squad alongside a 10-man Paladin squad, 1 Calidus Assassin, as well as a unit of Inquisitorial Henchmen. Many times we'll have Kaldor Drago jump into the big Brotherhood Terminator squad to confirm those charges, and have the Grand Master with Sigil of Exigence jump into the Paladin squad, allowing them to move forward aggressively, fire with their guns, and Sigil of Exigence or Mists of Deimos away in response to enemy movement or shooting targeting them. With the Grand Master rocking a Psy Cannon himself, that puts a total of 5 Psy Cannons in the unit, which actually adds some appreciable firepower, especially alongside the 2 Vortex of Dooms from the 2 Brotherhood Librarians. Those guys are both in Brotherhood Terminator squads. These guys are in the Brotherhood Terminator squads, which are relatively resilient, able to lose a couple of models to either enemy fire or their Vortex of Dooms backfiring on themselves, and use the Narthesium in those units to regenerate models back onto the table as long as they stay there for a full round. Now, last but certainly not least for this week, let's move back to the Majestic Beasties 2023 and talk about Frederick Schallenberg, who took World Eaters to an undefeated result. World Eaters have been seeing a lot of success lately, and while not the most consistent army, if you are good at playing aggressive melee forces and also are good at scoring objectives, World Eaters can do well for you. Frederick's list was running Angron as well as Karn the Betrayer, Lord Invocatus, a World Eaters Lord on Juggernaut with a favorite of Khorne to grant rerolls on their Blessings of Khorne, alongside the classic Master of Executions with a Berserker Glaive to buff his attacks on the charge. He was joined into a big unit of 10 Khorne Berserkers that are going to embark into a single Rhino. We then also had 2 units of Exalted 8-bound, 1 of 6 and 1 of 3, and 3 units of Standard 8-bound to fill out the rest of the list. No Jackals or other lighter units in this list, solely focused on those 8-bound and characters, but clearly that worked well enough for Frederick. A big congratulations to all these players who went undefeated this week. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about this result. Adeptus Astartes finally coming into their own and doing incredibly well this time around alongside Adepta Sororitas. Super big surprise, and super surprising not to see any Chaos Space Marines in this lineup. That's crazy given the dominance of the faction over the last couple of weeks. Let me know down in the comment section which list is your favorite. Big thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video, and thanks to everybody who supports Tactical Tortoise and keeps the light on over here, either over on Patreon at patreon.com/TacticalTortoise, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subscribers. I love you all. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.